Yeah, I know that. Okay, so I have sent a lot of material uh, towards you. Some of them are current events, like uh, it's about current happenings, like journalists like Asad Tour's issue now come, Hamid Mir's issue coming up, and all these things. And I have shared these uh, because I thought that you should be aware of the actual happening in the field. That how is it right now in the media? Like it's not. I don't judge things. I do judge things, but I don't like being political. I have just decided not to take sides politically from the very beginning, and I don't do
Also
that.
send links to your own page of YouTube where they are, discussing different journalism in Pakistan and all of that.
Yeah, my own. These are two audios, and also, and I don't know how many I sent you. Some of the one of the Urdu audios are basically friends asking me uh, uh, to talk about issues, and then I have a lot of students. You must know, like I have taught for 31 years, and I we used to teach. Like my first class was when I took my first class in 1990. There were 71 students in the class. Like I taught a 71 student class. And I have at times taught a 250 students class also in the US. So the number of students is enormous. Like it's more than 30,000 students in KP and other parts. So sometimes they ask for certain things. Many of them are journalists, uh, and they would like to have my view on things. Like so, but when you get older and into the profession, you might also like to have my view. I don't know. I don't know if I live another 50 years or not. but 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 uh, but but these are important issues in the sense that we are. If you are a working journalist, and even if you are a citizen, you have to understand how media works and what's the media situation. And it has become more important because of all of us being publishers. Like you are on social media, you give your views. Not all the time are you doing fun stuff. You express your views. You tell you basically you vent your frustration. At times, you are critical about things. Some of these things are cultural, some of these things are about friends, some of these things are political, and you have the right and duty to do that because that's what you do. So, the question of freedom of expression and freedom of media comes hand in hand. Like one of the most important things that I think we should always keep in mind, and the governments in Pakistan should also learn, is that democracy without a free media is impossible. Like you can have a fascist regime, but you can't have a democracy if you want to just gag every voice that rises. Secondly, in the because of modern technological advancement, you can't quieten voices. Like if you quieten one, there'll be another one. And it's not about one or two journalists. It's about the whole policy a government would have towards the media. Since I have been around for many years, like at least more than 3 decades, I am just looking at the profession, the way it's working, and also I have specialized in Pakistani media system. I am seeing a very strong shift, which has some reasons, which has national and international reasons. Some of them are governance, some of them are overall international scenario. One important change in Pakistani governance system is that the present government really is in no mood uh, to give media any space. And I'm not saying it because I don't like the government or I like the government or I was in favor of the earlier governments. No, it's just as a communication scientist that I see the shift in governments, what we call the political systems uh, with a lot of power towards another social system which fulfills one of the most important functions in the democracy, keep that keeps the people informed. Like the government doesn't want to be in a dialogue with the media. Like when I say that, I must confess that from the very beginning of Pakistan, media was never liked by the ruling elite. They didn't like it because they thought that when the British are gone, now they have the right to rule Pakistan and nobody should challenge them. That's true for every government in Pakistan, military or civilian, no exception. Everybody, as I have mentioned earlier also, there was a 4 months uh, period when Senator Javed Jabbar was information minister, and that was the time when media was free. But even the ruling PPP at that time, Benazir's government couldn't afford having such a information minister because they thought that Pakistan Television Corporation and Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation, at that time there was no private television, and they thought that they should always be serving the government and they should work as mouthpieces of the government. So they decided to sack the person. I'll ask Javed Saab for a talk. I hope he's very kind, so he loves to teach, and uh, I will invite him. These are difficult times, but I'll invite him sometime that he could talk about like a longer lecture, kind of 2 3 hours. I hope the pandemic is over and we can invite him formally and he comes over. Uh, so, so there is this relationship was never good. So if I say that PTI or whatever the government structure is right now is, they are the only ones who didn't like or don't like the media, it's wrong. But previous governments were in a dialogue with the media, especially civilian governments. Like they didn't just say no to anything, everything. Like what has changed right now, that the government is building a counter narrative, and it's in direct confrontation with the media. Now, how is it happening? Have anybody heard about our information minister's appearance on Hard Talk with Stephen Su?
I remember my dad talking about it. I think he watched it on TV and I was like not paying that much attention to it.
Yeah. What the rest of the interview doesn't concern me. I think that if you are going on to international media and if you have a portfolio and that also of information, you should go in well prepared. And you shouldn't think that I can just speak for an hour everywhere. I can do that also. I can do it better than him. I'm not a minister, but I won't dare entering an international talk show where my country's reputation is at stake ill prepared. Like first, he said that he doesn't consider Talat Hussain as a journalist. Like Talat Hussain is an internationally known journalist. He doesn't have a program on television right now, but people know him internationally. So refusing to accept the existence and ability of a person because you don't like it is wrong. That shows that you are against the government, against the media. And then he made a comparison between Talat and the present prime minister, Imran Khan, which was wrong. Like he shouldn't be doing that. Talat and Imran Khan are in two different fields. And then the factual inaccuracy of the number of votes that he said his prime minister gained, which was wrong. Now the it's not about the facts either. It's about the attitude. Why do you say that? If somebody says that Talat says this and this and this about the government, you say it's his right to criticize. Like it's his right to say whatever he wishes. It's a free country. I disagree. That's a simple answer. Don't you learn that simply? That you simply, this is how you answer. If you have a portfolio, you are not on a useless TV show local one where you are going to throw invectives and nobody will know. Now, nothing goes unnoticed in our present world, especially if you are a politician. And the problem with Pakistani politicians is it always has been that they don't consider that they are representing one of the biggest nations on earth. Like Pakistan is, I think, fifth according to population. It's it was sixth earlier, but I think it's fifth. Like you are representing one of the biggest nations on earth, and you are so irresponsible that you criticize the like the journalist and anybody watching that program would say, why did he say that? Why couldn't he simply say that he has the right to say whatever he says? I disagree. And here are the facts. That's how do you deal with it. You don't deal with it like you don't deal nonchalantly with important television programs which are watched globally. So this will haunt us forever. Like before that, it was Shah Mahmood Qureshi's event, which was different. Shah Mahmood Qureshi is Pakistan foreign minister. He said something, and there is a debate going on. It's different. But the information minister is saying something about an important journalist is wrong. And this shows what government intends to do. And the world knows now that the government in Pakistan, the incumbent government, is not ready to tolerate media. They are not ready to tolerate any criticism. Not that earlier governments were fond of the media, but here is an attitude problem that we see, and that's dangerous. That's dangerous because one, Pakistan has come from notoriety in the international media to a good deal of acceptance. Now, if you go on international media and you keep doing things like that, you might need you might lose that slight advantage that you have. The next allegation that will come our way is that Pakistani government is trying to go fascist. They want to like quieten all voices in opposition, and they just want to control the media. Here are the proofs. Like, okay, Hamid Mir's incident or the earlier one with the younger journalist are different, but the information minister saying it in an international program has a very different tone. Like, as I told you, the simple answer which everybody would have given, even a sitting dictator would have given, saying, I disagree. He has the right to say what he says. I disagree. But that guy was not in that mood. He just rejected. And this brings us to the other question. Where is media leading to? Like there are journalists like Asad Tur, for example. He's not a mainstream journalist, like he's YouTubing. Now YouTubing is considered has moved from fun into politics and into journalism because who else is YouTubing? Talat Hussain is YouTubing. I think Kamran Khan is also YouTubing. His blog is also there. So we are seeing a shift from mainstream journalism because of the pressure from the government to YouTube, social media. And this might be new journalism in Pakistan. Now, what the government should do right now is nobody is against accountability. Nobody is saying that if somebody breaks the law, you let it go. But they should create an environment where mainstream media survives. And the problem with the governance structure that insists on having its way is that it doesn't recognize the tendencies, like the fine line between democracy and strong governance and fascism. Why don't they recognize that? Because of populism. Because if our present prime minister, like Donald Trump in the US, like Boris Johnson is not that famous, but still he is, or like the French president, they think that they are the state. Like they have this idea about themselves. Why? Because there are people who follow them. People who follow them are not interested in knowing the facts. They are looking at the person. And they say, whatever this guy says, we are with him. Now, there are two problems with that. That guy might say something stupid, which is common. That's human weakness. And people will follow him. Or somebody might say something about that person, and you say, we don't want to check. You said this, and we will humiliate you. And this creates a culture of hate speech in a society. I think we are pretty much there. Like trolling is common, journalists or other celebrities are being trolled. Like if you go on Twitter and if you see what's being said about politicians and personal stuff, like when I see that, I really think, what's going on? Like, for example, the opposition prime leader Maryam Nawaz being a woman, whatever is said about her, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, even Imran Khan, even the first lady. Like, I don't know who the first lady is. I think the first lady is the prime minister's wife, not the president wife, because like the president wife is also considered to be the first lady. But I think the executive power doesn't lie with the president; it's with the prime minister. So what you will see is that there'll be more trolling on social media, and you will see a culture of indecency, of a culture of hate speech emerging fast. And there is no end to it, basically. Negative things don't have an end, basically. You have to end them by conscious decisions. One, it's very important that people who are political figures and who are followed by masses who are most of the time either too emotional or uneducated, they should really think before they speak. They shouldn't be going into careless speeches because people follow them. And they should always measure their words. That's important. Like uh, most of the politicians don't, because they are looking at their social media following, and that is creating a universal problem everywhere. Like the U.S., the president, sitting U.S. president Joe Biden, is being praised for not saying much. The U.S. has had that experience with populism. Like Obama was kind of a benign populist. He loved social media and media attention too. He loved controversy, but then he saw his match. Like Obama was instrumental in, like he lost an election, like he didn't run for presidency, and then they saw President Donald Trump coming in, and then the U.S. tasted uh, the disaster of populism. So, uh, on the one hand, you have a U.S. president who doesn't appear on social media much. So he's just getting back the traditional space for a US president. Pakistan should do the same. Any country that wishes to survive as a democratic country should really hold their horses. Politicians should be more mindful of what they said. I always mention, like, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, for example. She has said in one of her interviews that my departure will be very boring. Like one day I'll just take up my bags, go home. Why is she saying that? Because she knows that in the age of populism, if she leaves in fanfare, that will create a populist image of herself. So on the one hand, we need more politicians who understand their role. Like they should avoid populist approaches. Even if their opposition is doing, if you are an incumbent politician, if you are in the government, you should be mindful of the fact that you are responsible for smooth running of a country. Like you are not here to get more and more support and leverage for your political partners. You have to understand that you are ruling a country. You have been given a right and opportunity to serve a nation. Like that's very important. Nobody understands that. In the history of Pakistan, no politician has ever understood what their role is. But Now is a dangerous time because it's an age of populism and it's an age of media explosion. And if you say something wrong, if you say something stupid, and if you keep saying it, keep on saying it, you will destroy the very fabric, very moral fabric of the country. Secondly, it's important that we have more informed youth like you, like who understand how to behave on social media. Like that's very important. It needs a very strong campaign. And nobody else can do that but the government. If the government becomes party to conflict, we are doomed. But if the government realizes their responsibility to inform and educate people, then we have a future. Otherwise, we might be from trollings on social media, we might, God forbid, be killing each other in the streets. It's not that far. It's just a step further. Like that's very important to understand. So